Now it's Congressman Ted Lieu of California. He was an impeachment manager earlier this year. And Congressman, starting with Mo Brooks for just a moment, he's somebody who tried to lie and cover up what happened on January 6th. He falsely claimed that there's growing evidence that Antifa was involved, that it was orchestrated to sort of make Trump people look bad, et cetera. He hasn't exactly been an honest broker. What do you make of him throwing his staff under the bus?
Thank you, Jerry, for your question. Let me first say that I'm proud that my staff had nothing to do with the January 6th insurrectionist rally that led to the attack on the Capitol. What I want to know is, did Mo Brooks talk to his staff before the rally? Because he wore a bulletproof vest on January 6th. What did he know that none of us knew? And what caused him to wear that bulletproof vest in advance?
And I wonder if he issued bulletproof vests to his staff. Did he care enough about them to make sure they were protected? Have you heard any news about that?
I have not, but since he threw his staff on the bus, I would highly doubt he was trying to protect his staff. And I also note that we're about a year from last presidential election, and Mo Brooks and Republicans still cannot explain who stole the election nor how it was done. And that's because the election was not stolen. Trump simply lost.
Well, I mean, the going theory of people like Mo Brooks seems to be that it's not possible that Donald Trump lost because Joe Biden's voters, let's be frank, were people of color, and Donald Trump's voters were largely white and rural and looked like them. Here's Mo Brooks back in 2014 explaining what he thinks is sort of the grand design of Democrats in this country.
This is a part of the war on whites that's being launched by the Democratic Party. And the way in which they're launching this war is by claiming that whites hate everybody else. It's a part of the strategy that Barack Obama implemented in 2008, continued in 2012, where he divides us all on race, on sex, greed, envy, class warfare, all those kinds of things.
That's a little that characterization's a little out there.
But that doesn't affect what they're doing, though.
I just think that phraseology might not be the best choice.
I mean, when Laura Ingraham thinks you've gone too far on a racial topic, you might have gone too far. I mean, I wonder if you feel that even if the January 6th committee is able to give us all the facts of what happened, the fact that you have members of Congress who believe that the Democratic Party is waging a war on white people, and that if that's their fundamental belief, I wonder what you think. Even a very definitive report out of the January 6th committee, what impact will it even have on Republicans?
Joe Biden assembled a large, diverse coalition across America, and he beat Donald Trump by over 7 million votes. And that included white people, Asian people, black people, Hispanic people, all sorts of folks across America. So Mo Brooks is simply not telling the truth when he's trying to use a race war and how he characterizes this. What we're looking for is anyone who participated in the January 6th insurrection or helped plan it, and if they did, they should be investigated, and they should have no place in Congress.
We know now that the White House has already said no to executive privilege. There is a contempt vote against Steve Bannon. The fight is on for that. Do you believe that members of Congress should be subpoenaed? People like Mo Brooks should also be subpoenaed by the commission?
Absolutely. Nobody should be above the law, not members of Congress, not former White House staff. And I note that in the Nixon tapes case, the whole point of the Supreme Court decision is that you cannot use executive privilege to shield information if there are crimes that are involved. And it's clear there were hundreds of crimes that were committed on January 6th. 140 police officers were injured.
And indeed, because you had officers injured, and these are the same officers who protect the staff and protect members such as yourself, do you believe that people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mo Brooks, who are still justifying what happened on January 6th, do you believe they should be expelled from Congress?
Marjorie Taylor Greene should not be in Congress at all. If you look at her recent statement, she basically is saying that January 6th was, quote unquote, just a riot. It was more than that. People died. Police officers were brutalized. But she also justified it, saying that the Declaration of Independence was about overthrowing tyranny. I simply note that America was founded because we were breaking away from a monarchy, and then we established a constitutional republic, the same one we've had for hundreds of years. That was the same electoral college system that the framers used, that we used, and Donald Trump simply lost the electoral college and the popular vote. Marjorie Taylor Greene should not be in Congress if she is still disputing the results of the election and trying to justify the violent attack on our Capitol.
Congressman Ted Lieu, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful